Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining Uncensored, a behind-the-scenes look at the making of Meme the Baby Book. This is just one of the many virtual events of the 2020 Philippine Readers and Writers Festival brought to you by National Bookstore with special thanks to Raffles Makati. Before we start, we invite you to shop for books online on www.nationalbookstore.com and the official NBS store on Lazada. You can also shop from NBS branches via chat to shop on Facebook Messenger and to text to order through SMS or Viber. As a special offer, you can get 10% off on local books and up to 20% off on imported books when you shop online from today to October 4 only. So add to cart now. Hello, everyone. I am Meg, and let me introduce to you Tahanan Books. Established in 1992, Ilaw ng Tahanan Publishing Inc. is a Filipino corporation dedicated to making quality books for Filipino families as well as supplementary curriculum materials for schools and libraries. Named for the Filipino word for home, Tahanan aims to nurture a passion for learning with books that celebrate Philippine culture and history, starting from our own Tahanan. For this morning, our featured author is Miss Reni Roxas. She is an accomplished writer, editor, and publisher of Tahanan books. Her picture book, Ainaku, won a National Children's Book Award in 2012, and an anthology she edited, Hanggang sa Muli, Homecoming Stories for the Filipino Soul, was shortlisted in 2012 by the Manila Critics Circle for Best Anthology in English. In 2019, she won a first prize Carlos Palanca Memorial Award for her children's story, Pretty Peach and the Color Matching Kaleidoscope. For this hour, we'll be hearing about her creative process behind the newest title, Meme the Baby Book. Now let's meet our moderator, Miss Alexine Pareño. Alexine is a mom, a contributing writer for smartparenting.com.ph, and an entrepreneur. When she started to consider a career shift, she and her daughter decided to promote one of their most favorite things, books. Now, on their fourth year, Alexine and Adriana continue to offer a curated selection of Filipino children's books for the young and the young at heart here and abroad. So everyone, this is Uncensored, a behind-the-scenes look at making Meme the Baby Book. Reni, Alexine, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Meg. Hi, Reni. First of all, I wanted to say thank you for the invitation, and it's such an honor to be here with you all the way from the US. And congratulations for this beautiful, beautiful book. Launched in the time of pandemic, no less. Only you, Reni, can launch this. So Reni, this is such a beautiful book, and as we saw on the short clip, it's only very short words, simple words pieced together, but it's just so beautiful. Together, it's a book. And it's a beautiful, beautiful book that we've seen so many parents and children appreciate already. Is it easy to make a children's book? Because it's just very few words. Is it easy?
Well, first of all, thank you, Alexine. I have been making children's books for 35 years. And so I'm very glad for this opportunity to share what I know, especially with aspiring children's book writers. So here's my answer to your question. It is not easy to write a children's book. Why? Because it's like you're trying to hit a target that you can't, that has never been defined. You can't talk down to children, and you can't talk over their heads either. So I think a good answer to that question is what William Goldman, who was the author of The Princess Bride and worked in Hollywood as a screenwriter for many years. After working in Hollywood, somebody asked him, well, how do you make a good movie? And his answer was, nobody knows anything. I can't tell you when I get a manuscript that this book is going to be a hit. All I know is that I just bring my 35 years of experience to come to bear on the manuscript I'm reading, and a lot of it is intuition. Now, if you're a beginning writer, I would say write for yourself, write to express yourself, write about what's important to you, write about what hurts, write about something you want to laugh about, share what you know. But there comes a point when a writer starts to write for the reader. So there's a distinction there. In your growth as a writer, you're going to start shifting gear and thinking about the reader. And in the case of Meme, I think it was a happy coincidence. It was a happy accident that I felt very much that this was a book meant for the reader being the Filipino family, and ultimately the baby in the family.
What inspired you to write this? Who or what inspired you to write Meme, Reni? Because your children are grown. You have two sons who are ready to give you grandchildren at any point, any time now. So this was something I honestly did not expect from you. What inspired you to write Meme, the baby book?
Yeah, it's sort of delayed, no? Very delayed by 20 plus years. Actually, the inspiration for Meme came out of a writing class that I took, where the teacher read a poem, a nonsense poem. It was a great big fiesta, jambalaya of words, of just,
Reni,
words. Yes.
Do you still attend writing classes?
Absolutely. My education has never stopped. I continue
really?
classes and learn from other people. Sure.
That's amazing.
And so what I did was, my head was full of words and the juxtaposition of words. And I think Ernest Hemingway had said that he was writing the way he was seeing words for the very first time. So it was like I was getting to see words for the first time. And I was driving home from the class. It was at a nearby university. And I get my best ideas, Alexine, from driving somewhere. I don't know if the act of motion joggles the brain a different way, but I started thinking, okay, words. And then the word meme just popped in my head. And I said, oh my goodness, there's meme. And then as I kept driving, I said, there's also déde, right? So it wasn't a topic that just like lit up like a light bulb in my head. It started with the word, from the Bible, in the beginning was the word. So meme was the word for me. It led to déde, which is a rhyming word. And then further along into book production, it led me to bebe, which is another word for baby in some cultures. Mm-hmm. So I had 3 words. And from those 3 words, I was able to build a story. And the story just told itself in the form of, a day in the life of a baby. So, and then I wanted to also say that the word meme, my dad is 92 years old, and my stepmother, they've been married for over 40 years. I heard her say the other day, meme na tayo, to my dad. And it's like a word that spans the generations, and it almost doesn't matter how old you are. You can say meme, which for Filipinos is the gateway to sleep, isn't it? So when I came up with the word, thinking about, okay, we'll do a book on meme, everybody said, meme. They would just see it on paper and say, you don't mean meme, do you? And so these youngsters and millennials, I have something to tell you. You did not invent the word meme or meme.
That's true.
So we
Yes.
had to drop an accent mark on the first syllable just to make it clear.
So there's a picture here of your family, the men in your life. Does this book encompass the men in your life more or less?
Yes, you know, in a way you do some research on books, but I have to shamelessly say there was hardly any research done for this book because I lived it. And Cora Dandan Albano, who illustrated, she also lived it. She has 2 children of her own. So no research required. And there is a photo there of my young father when I was a baby. And I have to say that one of the pillars in the manuscript for this book was onomatopoeia. You know, when you use words that sound like what they mean. And with my dad, whenever we chilled, my brother, my sister, and I, whenever we were constipated when we were young, we would sit on the toilet and my mother would dispatch my dad to us to sit with us in the bathroom. And my dad would sit next to me and say, gutturally, right? From deep in his belly, he would say, ooh, 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 ooh. And my goodness, it worked. It really worked.
Reni, my father did that for me too.
So you see, it's almost
Yes.
it's right, baby, right?
Yes, I remember. I still remember that actually vividly. That's wonderful. That this baby book, you can honor your father with this baby book. Isn't
Absolutely.
that amazing? Yes.
And, you know, when I finished the manuscript over at Tahanan Books, what we want to do is we want to get the manuscripts vetted by experts. So we send it out to some early advocacy and early reading consultants. And some of the feedback that came back was, oh, you're going to talk about wee and utot and oo. Oh, you know, let's stay away from those words. And I thought to myself, all the more I'm going to use those words because they're so much a part of babyhood, right?
Exactly. And we've seen toddlers ages 2 and below love this book because they can really relate themselves. Each picture they see themselves. So that's fantastic.
Yeah, and here's one more thing about a word to the writers out there. A lot of your storytelling hinges on point of view, right? If you're writing a memoir, you're using first person. I did this, I saw this, etc. Second person, very, very rare to do. You know, you are looking at the sky, you are doing this, etc. Everything is you. And then there's the third person, which is in a way, I would say that meme achieves that difficult point of view where point of view doesn't even matter because it is a third person close narrative, very much in the head of the baby, which is what I wanted very much. In fact, there's a spread there where we say gapang, and I had the designer lower the label gapang closer to the floor so that you are really in the mind view and the world view of the baby. And that's what I wanted, that's what I wanted to do, in addition to celebrating all the plumbing that goes on when you have a baby. You have tulo laway, you have subo, sip sip, wee wee, utot, all those things. Before these babies and toddlers grow up, before they start learning or the world teaches them that it's embarrassing to fart in public, it's embarrassing to talk about these words. When you're very young and when you're a mother and father, you celebrate those words because it means that the plumbing works with your baby.
Exactly. We
right?
have a baby in the family and each poo poo and we cheer.
Celebrate it.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
So Reni, this book, it only has like, oh look, these are the figures of figurative language tools you use. Would you
Yes.
like to run us through them?
Yes. And again, the manuscript wrote itself. And then I want to acknowledge my good friend and award-winning writer Carla Pasis, because in a book review she wrote of this work, she pinpointed the different figurative expressions that were utilized in the writing of the story. So the first thing is the rhyme. As everybody knows, rhyming is the sound of word endings that are the same. So we have meme, bebe, dede. We have gigil, di mapigil, kiliting, kiliti, ang kili, kili. You know what? Filipino is a marvelous language. It really is. And there are other figurative language tools that we can talk about. Alliteration, for example. Alliteration is when words begin with the same letter or sound. And we have a lot of that in the book. Subo, sip, sip. We have agaw, ayaw, akin, aray. And in this spread of agaw, ayaw, akin, aray, when we were working on that particular spread, they were all A words. And I even wanted to use the word away, which is a palindrome with ayaw. If you just mix the W and the Y, you have away. And
That's right.
inawayan ko, yung illustrator, si Cora, and some other people in my staff, because they said if you put away, then it's like glamorizing that babies like to fight, and then how's the mother gonna fight with the baby and all that. So I was vetoed down with that. But for that particular spread, Cora was very good, because she dealt with agaw, this what we call selfish actions that a baby may have. She dealt with them very gently from the mother's point of view. So if the baby wants akin, then she will be very nice as a mother to give it to the baby. So moving on, figurative language tools. Another one is assonance. Assonance is the repetition of a sound or vowel near enough to each other for the echo to be discernible. I had mentioned agaw, ayaw earlier, and then we have iyak, yakap. So those are examples of assonance. And I think the last one is onomatopoeia. Oh my goodness, Filipino is a wonderful language for onomatopoeia. Aray, belat, utot. It really sounds like utot. Bantot, really, oo, gapang. So please tell our viewers they were forewarned. I told you this would be an uncensored talk.
So Reni, these are, when you think about it, this is practically the whole book. These are probably all the entire book. These words we just read out. How long did it take you to make this entire manuscript with just these? Like, to me, those are easy. I just put them together.
I think there was a lot of percolating going on, because that's how I end up with a story. I think about it a long time. So maybe I thought about it for 2 to 3 months. And then it took me about a month to write it. You do a draft, and you come back, you do a draft. And then after that, it was serendipity. It really was, because the word meme unlocked the whole premise for the book for me.
And then you chose your writer, or did you your illustrator, or did you know you wanted to the illustrator was Cora Dandan Albano? Did you know you wanted Cora? We're huge fans of her work, by the way.
Oh gosh, me too.
Yes.
Count me among
your long list of fans.
Yes. I had known about Cora for a long time. I knew that she was a very experienced children's book illustrator. And what I loved about her style was she was very fluid, which I find rare to have, like a fluidity of lines in her work. And she also illustrated a book by a friend of mine, Gidget Jimenez, all about the Philippines, which was published by Tuttle Books. And when I saw that, it sort of reinforced in my mind again, oh, I really want to work with Cora. So one weekend, I went up to Baguio and I invited her to merienda, and we ate in Cafe by the Ruins, which has moved. It's not really by the Ruins. I think it's by Mario's restaurant now. But anyway, we saw on the walls, she had a gallery exhibit of her Kakanin series.
I remember that. I wanted to go up.
Yes, just wonderful. So she and I, we spoke over coffee and tea, and I at that point I wanted very much to work with her, and we gave her the Ed Doy, an Ifugao folk song picture book, for which she did a lot of research. But as I said, with Meme was a cinch because I don't think she had to do much research for that. But when she was working on Ed Doy, the first time we ever worked with her, I got to appreciate how disciplined she was about her approach to the work. Because she said to me, Reni, I have 3 months to work on this book. So she would allot 3 months. And it made me realize a year is made up of 12 months, right? And if you're really disciplined and productive, you are going to make use of the 3 months. And that's exactly what she did. So she is an inspiration to me about
She delivered in 3 months. Done.
Yes.
How long did it take her to make Meme? Because there's so much in here.
Yes. Well, Meme was sort of more fluid. And I think there was a point there where I was rushing Cora to try to make the book fair, but she said, I really need more time. And I'm so glad she did that because we didn't rush the book. So when we didn't get it ready in September of last year, we had all these other months as a bonus to work on the book. And it turns out that it was fortuitous because we ended up turning the book and making it bilingual. So I can talk about that later, later in the hour. Oh, the other thing too, I want to just nod off to Cora was that she made the mother in the story, everyday looking, natural looking. And I think one of the remarks of one of our mommy bloggers was, hey, the mother looks like me, right?
Yes.
I mean, you have coiffured hair when you're taking care of your baby, right? You can just have it like you're in a hurry, and it was just so natural.
She's in a duster.
Yes.
Which everyone can appreciate now.
Exactly. She didn't glamorize it, and she just made it look like an everyday thing. So that's Cora's contribution. And then she also, originally, Alex, I did not include a father in the story. I have to admit, I'll be the first. I'm sorry, I didn't even have a dad. It was Cora who introduced a father in the book. So that's one more thing. And another thing is, for the gender, I didn't want to type the art director, and I told her, hey, it can be a boy or a girl. That's up to you. And then when we went to the wee section, like illustrating the wee scene, she said, I think it has to be a boy, right? And then we had the challenge of showing do we show the genitalia or do we not? But she artfully posed the the boy so that you see what he's doing. He's making wee, but you don't actually see the genitalia.
Reni, I have a question. So it seems you and Cora worked very, very closely, and this was only your second project together. Is such a relationship in creating a book, is that how it usually is with illustrators? Do illustrators usually have that much input into the creation of the book, the actual book, or?
Well, if I could use the Hollywood analogy of movie making, I think if you have a great casting director, if you cast the right person for the role, you can leave them alone. And with Cora, she gave me initial sketches of what her mother would look like, how her baby would look like. And after that, I just left her. To do it because she's experienced. She knows, right? And so that's how we work. It's really a relationship built on trust. because you have chosen the right person for the project.
Speaking of casting, Reni, in the creation of a book, like, because we've met quite a number of self-published authors, and a lot of them have told us that after their book's been created, they realized they missed out on consulting with a book designer. Now, what is a book designer? People don't like. You just have an author, illustrator, you have a publisher. What is a book designer? And I understand for Meme the Baby Book, your book designer is Ori Asuncion Yambao, and her work is gorgeous. All her works are gorgeous. What kind of magic does Ori bring to? What kind of magic did she bring for Meme the Baby Book?
You know, Ori Asuncion Yambao has, she is Tahanan's secret weapon. Well, the secret is out, right? She has been designing books for Tahanan for over 25 years. She has designed over 40 books for us. 7 of those books have won the National Children's Book Award. And she is also an illustrator and has produced wonderful language books. Her latest book is Sari Sari, a book of double words. It's due out from Tahanan next month.
Yeah.
And
Ooh,
Ori,
October?
pardon? In October. Yeah, in October, late October, hopefully.
So excited.
Yeah, and with Ori, I have to say, how important is the book designer? It's almost like I would say it's very important. It's
like magic setup, like that.
Well, one person said your hair is like 75% of your appearance, and a book design is 75% of what a book looks like. It's subliminal, but it's there. It's how it's structured, and it's how the typography is chosen. It's how the cover is cast and designed. There's a lot that a designer contributes to the book, and I know that if you're publishing your own book, if you could hire a professional designer whose work you admire, I would really encourage you to do that. It's all about presentation. You know our business. And one thing I wanted to say about Ori is that she says titles do not matter now. It's almost like she and I have been shoulder to shoulder, leaning on the plow, just pushing our kalabaw along and working together over the years. So, and then she also said something about here, if I could quote what she said, what matters is how we give our best to every book. So this is Ori talking. I can edit Reni's text. She can suggest visuals. It's the book that decides what it wants for itself. And
you know, Reni, the one thing like I appreciate most about the Tahanan books is that all your books are beautiful, all of them. So she is your Ori's your secret weapon. She is the person behind all those beautiful books.
Yes. And also at Tahanan, I am notorious for being for what I call Tweaksville, because even after Ori is done with the book, I do a lot of urong here, nudging here and there. And,
I've heard you stop the presses, literally.
My managing editor, she deserves a lifetime achievement award for doing all these things. So, it takes you a split second to look at a spread, but there was a lot of work that goes into that. And I wanted to share my theory about all the little details that come in at the end of a book. I have a 97% theory of completion. Do you want to hear it?
Okay.
When you're 97% done with any book project, that 3% remaining is going to take up 97% of your time for the time it will take to finish the project. So in other words, there's hundreds and hundreds of details to think about. And in fact, maybe if Meg could punch up the fonts just to show you, right? It was laborious finding the right font. You would think, oh, madali lang, but no, it wasn't. It was like, we went through dozens of fonts. And I told Ori, I said, Ori, when I see it, I'll know it. I'll know it when I see it. So this is what you're seeing is the short list. After throwing out practically 90, 100 typefaces out the window. And we went with Plantain Infant, and I thought how appropriate, because infant is part of the name of this font, right? And I liked it because it was mataba. It took up a lot of space horizontally. It was sweet. It was evocative. The other two also had their good points, but they were a bit payat and maybe
See,
a little
Reni, to
business.
the untrained eye, they all look the same to the
They all look-
untrained eye. But then when you, I'm like straining my eyes to see the difference. But on the actual book, it does look perfect. So all this work, all this, like, and to think this is already the short list.
And not just that, this final font, Lex,
Yes.
is I think the G was wrong and the M was wrong, and she had to do a mix of 3 fonts.
Really?
Yeah. So there's
Sorry, the final font is Cooper.
was
And
that the final font?
we use the Plantain Infant for the G and A.
Oh, thank you, Meg. Thank you. Oh, so we ended up with Cooper after all. But for the dialogue bubble, first try was the right try. The first choice of Ori, pasok.
Okay, now I thought we were looking at the bubble. Now I really don't know. Now I really, oh, look at this. So this is wonderful. The iyak yakap, that's
Yes.
wonderfully executed.
And that came out of my own experience with my eldest. When Max was a baby, he would cry his little heart out, and then I would pick him up. And as soon as I don't know if you had this experience with Adriana, Lex, but I would pick him up and then I put him back in his crib. He would cry again, and I'd pick him up, and it was like endless. It was like an endless cycle of iyak and yakap. So I was telling Ori, can you do a necklace of those 2 words, like a never-ending circle around them? So that was how we envisioned that particular spread.
And I think every mother can relate to that. Especially bedtime. That's why a lot of mothers now, they just carry their children the whole time they sleep.
Yeah, you can't win. You're not going to win that battle.
That's true. So, Reni, so here we see parallel bilingual text. Was that now, even translating the text, like people since you only have so many words, that should be easy, right? Anyone can do it. You can just use Google Translate and all these things will magically appear. Is that the case?
That was not the path for me.
No.
Actually, we had a glossary. All along, we had planned a glossary of translated English words in the back of the book. But I had a US distributor here where we also sell our books to Phil-Amps here in the US. And I asked her, I said, there's going to be a glossary in the back. It's not going to be parallel text, bilingual text on the page. And she said, I'm not going to buy it. If it's not bilingual in the book itself, I'm not going to buy it. So I had to double back, and I had to tell Cora and Ori, oh no, I'm sorry, but we have to make it parallel, bilingual. So, and then the challenge was, okay, so how do you go about translating? And I said, you know what? If I did it verbatim, I felt that went against the spirit and the grain of the book. So I said, I'm going to use figurative translations, and for the verbatim translation, they can refer to the glossary in the back of the book. So, like for example, they will say it's gatas, right? Gatas, and so I would put looking for milk. So the translation was contextual. The other thing too was I didn't want the English to rain on the parade of the Filipino. The Filipino is the primary language of this book. So Ori cast it in gray. It's not 100% black. If you look at the English text, it's kind of gray. para hindi aaway, it's not going to fight the Filipino text. And I used all small caps, and I did away with punctuation. So all those things that would make English conspicuous looking on the page, I tried to get rid of. And, even translating, if you talk to people like Eugene Evasco, Cecile Ochoa, there are challenges with translations. For example, we had a page that said the words tulo laway, right? You know that phrase from growing up, tulo
Yes.
laway. And initially, our translation was saliva dribbles. Right?
Okay.
And then one morning I woke up, I think I was thinking about it subconsciously. I said, it's not saliva dribbles, it's drool, right? That's what tulo laway is. So those are things too. It's not so easy just plucking stuff out of Google Translate.
Which is true, because a lot of books, admittedly, with parallel bilingual text, a lot of them they translate verbatim, and it just comes out off on so many levels.
Yes.
So I really appreciate that you contextualize the translation.
Yeah.
Also, Reni, another interesting thing I wanted to point out, that since all three of you involved in the creation of the book, you and Cora and Ori, all three of you have grown children. So, but I noticed the book, in all its simplicity, also highlights trending mommy topics. Like here in this image, you see the baby has wooden Montessori toys. The baby is practicing tamang kain. They're co-sleeping. She's breastfeeding. There's, what else is in there? There's early potty training. There's, the baby uses reusable diapers. These are all trendy mommy topics. And then when I thought about it some more, these are actually old school practices that are just coming back now, diba? But
it's like the word meme.
Yeah, so all these salient points, did you have all these in mind when you
I'm sorry, Lex, I cannot take any credit for that, because it was primarily Cora who illustrated the wooden toys. There was, in the vetting process, I believe it was you who said, I had a scene there called pulbos, where I used baby powder, because our children, I grew up with baby powder, our children grew up with, and you very astutely pointed out that it is not used anymore because of the cancer implications. So we took that out. But as far as all use of wooden toys, recyclable diapers, that's Cora.
So this is very relevant. Like, that's why I think a lot of moms really appreciate it, because a lot of mothers still have to fight for basic things like breastfeeding. So the fact that there's an entire page, this page here where we see the baby breastfeeding, it's an entire page, and I think that's a very good salute to the cause. Yeah.
Yes, and I think also, one of the things that we wanted to show was, when the use of the boy, I wanted to also share my experience as a woman giving birth to a boy, that the miracle of having a female body and giving birth to a human being that has body parts that you never had, I think what is the miracle of birth. And I wanted to mention too that I think some of the pushback we've gotten indirectly from social media is that why is the mother the parents, the stay-home parent, right? Lex, I don't know if you've heard that. Why does it have to be the mother?
Because everyone's we have a lot of feminist women now who say, why is it always the dad who has to work for a living? So it can be the other way around.
Yeah. So my answer to that is, this is one way of telling the story, it's a story where the mother is a stay-home parent and is the primary caregiver for the baby. And there are many ways of parenting, and we honor all those different ways to parent. But meme, I guess, is traditional, I would have to say, because I had to lean on my own experience. But we also celebrate all those different ways of parenting.
I think it's a classic. I like to have, well, there, like even to say there are different units of family now. They come in all sizes, but the love, you see the love. That's what I love most about this book, is the love permeates from every page. It's just bravo, bravo, bravo. I can't compliment it enough.
One of the things I want to tell our readers is that this is a book I think that you could start as a parent. You could start reading to your children, and then you could be reading with your children. And of course, the goal is that the child will read on his or her own and see that they are the bida of the book. And one of the things that had me laughing in social media, one of the mommy bloggers shared, I think her 2-year-old, his favorite book at the moment is Meme. And when she asked him, "Oh, this is about you, isn't it?" And he said, "No, it's not about me." He's 2 years old, right? But I think he enjoyed seeing pictures, seeing himself.
You know, Reni, my daughter, she's 9. She's almost 10. She's gonna turn 10 in a few days. And when she saw this book, she immediately asked to sit on my lap, and she asked that we read it together. So
you know what it is? It's comfort food in a way, right?
Exactly. That's a great way of putting it. It is comfort food. Like even for me, and reading it alone, it is, you're right. That is the perfect term. It is comfort food.
Well, I do hope that it will be a book that will be around, long after I'm around.
This is definitely a new classic. And who would have thought that there was this void in the Filipino children's book publishing, that we didn't have something like this, no?
Yeah. Well, it's my answer to Good Night Moon. So from my mouth to God's ear, right? I hope it will be our version of Good Night Moon.
I think this knocks Good Night Moon out of the ballpark. This is I didn't like Good Night Moon, honestly.
Oh, really?
Yes, because I bought it later.
Repetitive.
Yeah, I bought it later. My Adriana was already a toddler, I think. And then we were reading and I couldn't appreciate it. But this one, she's already 9 and she loves this one.
Well.
Oh, Reni. So Ainaku is your award-winning book that I was in fact surprised to see that they're in the same format. They're the same size. They're the same, more or less. The words are the same. Were they meant to be what do you call it? Partner books?
Companion
books?
I would say not really, because I think one of your questions to me was, what is the age level for Meme?
Yes.
And I would say Meme's age level targets maybe 0 to 3-year-olds. And Ainaku is for older kids. Ainaku is probably 3 to 6, I would say. But those goalposts move all the time, depending on your child. But I think we decided on casting Meme with the same trim size as Ainaku, so that they could sell back to back as a package for people who want to read the 2 books that I've written, by the same author. So that's, but they're really targeting different age levels. So read Meme first, and then read Ainaku a couple of years down the road. And I have to tell you, the genesis for Meme really came out of Ainaku. Ainaku came about because I realized that onomatopoeia and the Filipino language, Tagalog, there is so much to celebrate in the language, because we use a lot of words that give the sound of the meaning of the word. Dulas, bagsak. It sounds the way the action is, right? So And then fortuitously, in the back of the book, in the back of Ainaku, we had a glossary, and Ori was my designer for that book, and she chose to illustrate the words denoting the action. Like her dulas would probably have an S that is slightly on
Oh,
the
okay. I'm
sound,
looking at it.
and that gave birth
Yes.
to
Book.
an idea for a book, which was Takbo, which was
Ah,
Ori's book on action verbs using onomatopoeia. And she, yes, absolutely, that's it.
yeah.
You got it, Lex. And because she won the National Children's Book Award that year for Takbo,
I
right?
can't
So
wait for her to win an award for Saya Saya also. I love Saya Saya.
we are having so much fun trying to teach Filipino to young families, because I think, like, even for Filipinos living abroad, many of them were not taught Filipino. Many of these young parents today were not taught Filipino by their parents because they were so bent on assimilating into the foreign culture. So these are the very people who want to buy our books because they want to teach Filipino to their children.
That's
So,
true. We do
yeah.
have inquiries from all over the world, and once they receive your books, they always mention that these are the books, these are the ones that stand out. Let's say we send them a whole pile of books. Your books are always the one that stand out. And then they're always very grateful because they say it's exactly what they needed for their children. It's very helpful.
Well, thank you, Lex. I'm going to treat you to a virtual merienda.
So, Meg, do we have questions from our audience? Or Reni, in closing, since you are like I think it's amazing. Like, you've been in the industry for 35 years, you said?
Yes.
And you're still writing, taking writing workshops. And here you are producing. I was telling your managing editor, Fran, that you guys are churning out books in the midst of pandemic. You're making the pandemic look bad. And your books are amazing.
But Lex, why not, right? Everybody's sheltering in place. Everybody's locked up at home. This is the best time to come out with books. And, you know, like any other business, Tahanan is struggling through this time. The Manila International Book Fair, which we look forward to every year, I think they have to come up with alternative plans this year because in person will be very difficult to pull off. So we are like any other business, we're struggling. But I find that we're getting more orders from families that are stuck at home and have to homeschool their children, right? You're very familiar with the homeschooling market. So it's sort of been a good time for us also, a good time to be creative and prolific.
Yeah, you're the standout. You're the standout in this pandemic. You guys are shining bright.
No, you know that saying, publish or perish. Publish or perish.
So, Reni, do you have to close? Do you have advice to our aspiring writers or illustrators, even, or everyone dreams of writing their own book? Do you have any advice other than the ones you earlier stated?
Yeah, I would say write about what you love. Write about what interests you. It depends. If you're writing fiction, you have to write out of your imagination. If you're writing nonfiction, then I would say if you want to be published by one of the publishing houses at Adarna, OMF, Tahanan, study their publicists, study the kinds of books that we put out. And I think you will stand a better chance if you informed yourself about the types of books we like to publish. That will help you. Although, you know, it's also tough. I'm not going to make it, appear like it's candies and roses. It's tough to get published by a publishing house because we have limited resources. So we can't publish every manuscript that comes along. We have to be very careful about our selection process. But to the writers out there, keep writing about what's important to you. And one of these days, you're going to find an audience.
So, that actually was an answer to the question from, we did get a question from Raven Villanueva on Facebook. He did ask, do you have any writing advice for people who want to be a children's book author? So I think that was very, very sound advice. Even
And some people also say, oh, do you want me to illustrate it, or my manuscript will be accompanied by my friends' illustrations, etc. We don't want an illustration component to come with your manuscript. Your manuscript has to stand on its own, and usually the publisher will want to select its own illustrator for your work, so you don't have to worry about illustrations.
are you flooded with manuscripts? Do you?
Right now it's really my managing editor, Frances Ong, that sifts through all the, what we call the slush pile, which I think is a terrible word, but it stands for unsolicited manuscripts. I don't believe we get as many unsolicited manuscripts as other publishing houses.
Really?
But I don't think so. And if it passes muster with Fran, then she'll bump it up to me. And then I'm a big believer in surveys. It's a democratic process at Tahanan. I always consult with my staff about pretty much the decisions. Although in the end, it's ultimately, I'm driven by intuition over what the ultimate decision is going to be.
And your intuition has proven to be right. Like, your books that were published decades ago are now in demand, right?
Well, I am now working with Gabby Lee and Adrian Panadero on
I can't wait for that. What is it coming?
a book. Yes, it's called Celi's Crocodile, and it's about the life and art of Araceli Limcaco dance. The well-known.
Yes, that's happening soon, right?
Yes.
Very soon, because we're waiting.
My correspondence with Adrian sort of was a wonderful way for me to share with him what I know about children's book making, and maybe in a couple of years Tahanan will be celebrating its 30th anniversary, and maybe we can share some of that give and take between Adrian and myself to help other people with bookmaking.
Thank you. Reni, we have another question which I think you love. This is from Cheska Venice Rojas, sent through Facebook. She says, Miss Reni, to continue to create, what inspires you to continue to create books that impact the young Filipino generation? I personally love Tahanan books and use the history books for my homeschooling curriculum. And the same question was asked by Ed Scalmin, also from Facebook. What inspires you?
Lex, thank you for that question. I grew up in a family of business entrepreneurs. They were very much into numbers, and I felt a little like a duck out of water. I felt a little out of place because I loved words. And then when we created Tahanan Books 27 years ago, I felt very blessed because I was able to use my love of words and parlay it into a business, a viable business that has lasted all this time. And I consider myself very lucky because I'm in a creative business. Every book is different from one project to the next. Every book has a different set of cast of characters, and you never stop learning. And once you have that book and you smell the paper and you see all those colors and all that hard work, all the tweaking that went in there, the 3%, the 97%, oh, it's indescribable, the feeling you get when you have your book out to share with the world.
Jessica has a follow-up question. How do you churn out the ideas? Because they never cease to amaze me. It's like you're like a golden goose just laying the eggs ready. How does it never stop? 35, like some people are one trick wonder, and here you are just continuously through the decades producing.
Well, I think it also comes from my training as an editor. You're trained to go through life asking yourself the question, is there a book here? You could look at a nest in a tree and see 3 birds, and you can ask yourself, is there a book here? Can I spin a story out of this? It's endless. The possibilities are endless. And if there's anything I can do, Tahanan cannot publish all your books, to all our viewers out there. But please, I would really encourage you to keep writing. Write every day if you can. Always stay in touch with your art, because that art is essentially a creative task, a creative endeavor, and you should always be connected to art in your life.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Reni, for sharing your craft with us today.
And
Thank you,
with that, with that, we have to wrap up. Now we know how much work goes into making books for kids. We hope everyone learned a lot from this session. And on behalf of National Bookstore and Tahanan Books, we want to thank all of you for joining us this morning. Please shop for our books on www.nationalbookstore.com and on the official NBS store in Lazada. Just feel free to search Meme the Baby Book so we can get your copy. Again, you can get them at 10% off on local books and up to 20% off for imported books when you shop online from today to October 4 only. So add to cart now. There are more virtual events until the weekend for the 2020 Philippine Readers and Writers Festival. So check out the complete lineup by visiting www.readersandwritersfestival.com or by following NBS at NBS Alert on Facebook and at National Bookstore on Instagram. Thank you again, Reni and Alexine, and we hope everyone enjoyed the session. We'll see everyone in the next session for the Philippine Readers and Writers Festival. Thank you, National Bookstore.
Thank you.